Hello everyone, I am Uma Channa and I want to explain you chapter 3 questions. It is in the syllabus of class 7th. So let's start. First of all, I want to introduce you about the author of this chapter. Who is this author? This author is Leo Tolstoy. He was born on September 9, 1828 in Tula province, that is in Russia. In the 1816s, he wrote his first great novel, War and Peace. In 1873, Tolstoy set to work on the second of his best-known novels, Anna Karenina. He continued to write fiction throughout the 1880s and 1890s. One of his most successful later works was The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Tolstoy died on November 20, 1910 in Stapovo, that is also in Russia. So let's continue. This lesson is about a king. The king once thought that he would never fail if he knew three things. One was that what the right time was to begin something. Second thing was which people he should take advice from. And the third thing was how to decide what the most important thing to do was. So, he sent messengers throughout his kingdom. He promised to give a reward of a large sum to the person who answered his three questions. Now, the solution was that many wise men tried their luck in his court with the answers. They gave a number of answers. The answers were different. One said that the king should go by a timetable, so he should follow a proper schedule of the timetable. Another said that the king should do whatever seemed him necessary at the moment. And the third one suggested that the king should consult wise men or magicians. So, answering the second question, they gave top importance to his counselors, or to priests, or to doctors, or to soldiers. In reply to the third question, the wise men gave importance to science, or fighting, or religious worship. But the king was not at all satisfied with the answers of these people. So, in order to get the answer of his questions, he went to a hermit. And the hermit was living in a jungle. He was living alone. When he went there, he saw the old and weak hermit who was digging the ground. So the king asked his questions, but he did not get any answer from the hermit initially. Then he took the spade from the hermit and began to work in his place. Several hours passed. It was evening, so the king stopped digging the pits. The king was ready to take leave from the hermit. Just then, the hermit told that someone was running towards them. The king saw a bearded man running towards them. His hands were pressed against his stomach, from which blood was oozing. As he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. He had a large wound in his stomach. The king washed the wound and compressed it with his handkerchief. At last, the bleeding was stopped. Now the man felt better and asked for water to drink. The king gave him fresh water. By the time the sun had set, the king and the hermit carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. Now the tired king also fell asleep. But when he awoke, the bearded man asked to forgive him. The man was, in fact, the enemy of that king. He had followed the king to take revenge on him. He had vowed to kill him. The king had once put his brother to death, and the man hid himself in a bush away on the way to the jungle. He came out of his hiding place when the king did not return for long. He got wounded by king's bodyguards. He would have died if the king had not dressed his wound and taken care of him. He felt so grateful to the king who had saved his life. He promised to serve the king as a faithful servant. The king was happy that he had made peace with his enemy. He forgave the man and promised to give back his property. The king then went up to the hermit. He again asked for answers to his 3 questions. The hermit explained that by digging the beds for him, the king had escaped attack. So the most important time was when he was digging the beds. The hermit himself was the important person. So to do him good was the king's most important business. The hermit further told the king that the most important person for him was the person with him at a particular moment. The most important business was to help that person, and the most important time was now, that is the present moment. Moral of this story is, there are the 3 answers, that the most important time is always the present, means now. The most important person is the one you are with, and the most important pursuit is to do good to that person. Thank you.